I learned that you have to be at the right place at the right time. Now, yesterday I mentioned that I went through infertility for 7 long years before actually conceiving. And during that time, I was living in Atlanta, but I had moved to LA for work as a writer. And so my mom actually befriended a pastor who lived in LA, and she told me, you should go visit his church. Now, I wasn't interested in going to visit because for 7 years, even coming from the East Coast, none of the churches I went to, no one spoke about infertility, not one person. So I did not feel seen and I did not feel heard, and I felt like it would just be another time of me showing up, and the things that were in my heart and in my mind, I was not going to get a release from it. I was not going to get a breakthrough from it. So I was not interested in going. But then I decided, after she mentioned it to me a couple of times, and then my brother called me and was like, hey, you should really go visit his church. There's something there for you. And I still didn't go. It was maybe like a couple months after that I finally went. I went on a Sunday evening. His name is Prophet Ruckins McKinley. The church is New Breed. I'm still a member, online member, although I don't live in California anymore. And so I show up to the service that Sunday evening. The second I walked through the door, he was preaching about Hannah. Now, I had written out my own personal prayer confessions, and one of the scriptures was 1 Samuel. So I had been meditating on Hannah for a while. Hannah was my girl, because I'm like, okay, if it worked for Hannah, even if I'm not hearing from any of the churches I went through, I'm going to still do my own confession. So I was locked in with Hannah. So the second I came in there, it immediately caught my attention because he was teaching on that. As the service was coming to an end, he called me up and he began to pray over me and prophesy over me. And most of it was about my career. As I turned to walk away, he asked me, did I have any children? And I said, no, I don't have any kids, and I've been trying for a while. And then he said, come back up here. And that's when he began to pray over me, and he told me, you are going to have kids. When you were walking away, I saw, that's why I actually turned back around, I saw kids walking with you. I saw your future. So after the service was over, I talked to him and his wife, and they both told me that this is an area that God has anointed them in, that they have a special anointing in this area, and that people who have tried for a long time to conceive, nothing was working, God blessed them basically by us praying over them, because we have an anointing in this area. So I went home, I was excited, but still kind of like my faith wasn't where it should have been, considering the word I had received. So from that time, I want to say maybe like 6 or 7 months had gone by. Then my husband was convincing me to do a third IVF. I did not want to do a third IVF. I was just hoping and praying it was going to happen naturally. And as I mentioned yesterday, we did a number of failed IUIs, probably like 9 IUIs that failed. And then we did 2 failed IVFs. And this was going to be our last time trying, because I didn't want to do it anymore. So anyhow, I decided to fly back to Atlanta, and we were going to do this last embryo transfer. I did the embryo transfer, and then I came back to LA because I was starting a job. When I came back to LA, I think I mentioned yesterday, my doctor called me. It was like 2 weeks later. She called me, told me to go take a pregnancy test at the fertility clinic in California, and it was positive. And so had I not gone, had I not come to California, had I not also gone to the service that night, even though my faith was not in the place that it should have been, had I not done those 2 things, I would not have been at the right place at the right time. And even though my embryo transfer happened on the East Coast, I didn't get pregnant until I came to the West Coast. It takes, time for the embryo to implant. So even though I left Atlanta, I'm doing my embryo transfer, when I came to the West Coast, when over those 10 days, is when the embryo actually implanted. And so I was at the right place at the right time, under the right leadership, and people who actually had an anointing in this area, because people can have an anointing for all type of things. Some people have a teaching anointing, some people have a preaching anointing, some people have deliverance ministries, but God can give someone a specific anointing for something. And thank God my mom met this man. Again, the church is in California, Irvine, California, Newbury Worship Center. But I'm curious, has anyone out there been at the right place at the right time and had a divine moment?